The champagne flutes clinked together as my family gathered around the table at Romano's, the upscale Italian restaurant overlooking the harbor. It was my 60th birthday, and my nephew Kyle had insisted on organizing this celebration. The warm glow of candlelight reflected off the crystal glasses, and I felt genuinely grateful to be surrounded by the people I loved. To Uncle Richard, Kyle raised his glass, his smile bright and confident. The man who gave me everything, who believed in me when no one else did, who paid for my college, my apartment, my start in life. This is your night. Everyone applauded. I felt my chest tighten with emotion. Kyle was like the son I never had. After my brother died in a car accident 12 years ago, I'd stepped in to raise Kyle from age 14. He was now 26, working in finance, seemingly thriving. Looking at him now in his expensive suit, I felt proud. "Speech, speech," someone called out. I stood, about to respond, when our waiter approached with a concerned expression. "Mr. Caldwell?" he said quietly, leaning close to my ear. "There's a gentleman at the bar who asked me to give you this immediately. He said it was urgent and that you should watch it alone. He left right after." He handed me a small USB drive in a plain white envelope. No name, no note. "What is it, Uncle Richard?" Kyle asked, his smile faltering for just a moment. "Probably a birthday message from a client," I said, slipping it into my jacket pocket. You know how eccentric some of them are. But something felt wrong. The waiter's expression, the urgency, the anonymity. "Actually," I said, forcing a smile, "I need to make a quick call. Business emergency. You know how it is. I'll be right back." I walked toward the restaurant's private office area, my heart beating faster than it should. The manager, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia, whom I'd known for years, saw my expression and immediately offered me her office. "Everything all right, Mr. Caldwell?" "I'm not sure," I admitted. "Can I use your computer for a moment? Something private?" "Of course." She stepped out, closing the door behind her. I plugged in the USB drive with trembling hands. There was a single video file, labeled only with today's date. I clicked play. The video was shaky, filmed from what looked like a phone camera hidden in a bag or pocket. The audio was muffled but clear enough. I recognized the location immediately. It was the coffee shop 2 blocks from my office. And I recognized the voice, Kyle's voice. "Look, the old man trusts me completely," Kyle was saying to someone off camera. "I've been setting this up for 8 months. I've got his social security number, his mother's maiden name, everything. I've already opened 3 credit cards in his name. He doesn't check his credit report, he's too old school for that." My blood ran cold. The other voice, a woman's, responded. "What about the business accounts?" "Working on it," Kyle said. "I've been forging his signature for months. Started small, just practice on old documents I found in his home office. Now I can copy it perfectly. I'm going to transfer his investments into an account I control, then liquidate everything. By the time he figures it out, we'll be in the Cayman Islands." "What if he finds out before then?" Kyle laughed. A sound I'd never heard from him before, cold and calculating. "He won't. And if he does, what's he going to do? Turn in his beloved nephew, the kid he raised? He's too sentimental, too trusting. That's why this is so easy." The video ended abruptly. I sat frozen, staring at the black screen. My hands were shaking. My nephew, the boy I'd clothed, fed, educated, loved, was destroying me. And he was doing it with contempt, with mockery, with absolute confidence that I was too weak to stop him. There was a soft knock on the door. Patricia entered cautiously. "Mr. Caldwell, you've been in here for 20 minutes. Your guests are concerned." I looked up at her, and whatever she saw in my face made her immediately close the door and sit down. "What happened?" she asked gently. I should have kept it private. But Patricia had been managing this restaurant for 15 years. I'd watched her handle difficult situations with wisdom and discretion. And right now, I desperately needed someone to tell me I wasn't losing my mind. I showed her the video. Her expression hardened with each passing second. When it ended, she was silent for a long moment. "Mr. Caldwell," she finally said, "that young man is out there right now, at your birthday dinner, smiling and toasting to you, while he's been systematically destroying your financial identity. I know. What are you going to do?" "I don't know." My voice came out as a whisper. "He's my brother's son. I raised him. I loved him. And he's robbing you blind," Patricia said firmly. "With planning, with malice. This isn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. This is calculated fraud." She was right. But the pain of it, the absolute devastation of being betrayed by someone you raised as your own child, was overwhelming. You need to go back out there, Patricia said. Act normal. Don't let him know you know, because right now you have evidence. Right now he thinks he's safe. But if you confront him now, emotionally, without a plan, he'll destroy whatever evidence exists and disappear. Who sent this video? I asked. Who would have filmed this? Someone who cares about you, she said. Someone who wants you to know the truth. Does it matter who? What matters is what you do next. She was right again. I went back to the table. The champagne had been poured. The appetizers had arrived. Kyle was laughing at something someone said, looking relaxed and happy. There he is, he called out. Crisis averted? All good, I said, sliding into my seat. I picked up my glass with a steady hand. Years of business negotiations had taught me how to control my expressions. Just a client being demanding. Nothing that can't wait. On your birthday? Kyle shook his head with performative sympathy. That's rough, Uncle Richard. You work too hard. You should think about retiring, enjoying life. You've earned it. I bet you'd love that, I thought. Me, retired. Confused. Easy to manipulate. Maybe you're right, I said aloud. Maybe it's time to slow down. Kyle's smile grew wider. I could help, you know. Manage some of your accounts. Take the burden off you. I work in finance now. It's literally my job. The audacity of it. The sheer brazen audacity. That's generous of you, I said carefully. Let me think about it. The dinner continued. I laughed at the right moments. I thanked everyone for coming. I cut the cake, and all the while my mind was racing, planning, calculating. When I finally got home that night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my computer and began investigating. I pulled my credit report, something I hadn't done in 2 years. Patricia was right. I was old school. I trusted my family. I trusted the system. My credit report was a nightmare. 3 credit cards I'd never opened, all maxed out. A car loan I'd never taken. A personal loan for $30,000 I'd never signed for. My credit score had dropped from excellent to poor. The total fraudulent debt in my name was over $120,000. And I'd noticed nothing, because I lived simply. I didn't obsess over my credit score. I had plenty of money. I wouldn't have noticed these cards being declined because I always used the same 2 cards for everything. I was the perfect victim, trusting, comfortable, not paying attention. I spent the next 3 days gathering evidence. I called each credit card company and requested copies of the applications. The signatures were good, very good, but they weren't perfect. I found my old yearbooks, old documents, real signatures from years past for comparison. I hired a forensic accountant without telling anyone. A discreet professional Patricia recommended. He discovered more. Kyle had been intercepting some of my mail. He'd set up a P.O. box and redirected certain financial statements there. He'd been doing this for months. The accountant found attempted wire transfers that had failed due to security protocols. Kyle had tried to move $50,000 from one of my investment accounts 3 weeks ago. It had been flagged as suspicious and blocked. I'd never been notified because the bank had sent the security alert to an email address I didn't recognize, one Kyle must have created. Mr. Caldwell, the accountant said grimly, if this had gone on another month, he would have successfully drained your accounts. He was getting better at it, learning the systems. This USB drive, whoever sent it, saved you from complete financial ruin. I thought about that unknown person at the coffee shop, secretly filming, then finding me, delivering the evidence. I owed them everything. On the 4th day, I received an email from Patricia. Mr. Caldwell, I think I found who sent you the video. Can you come to the restaurant this afternoon? Come alone. I arrived at 2 o'clock when the lunch rush was over. Patricia was waiting in her office with a young man I'd never seen before. He was maybe 23, thin, nervous-looking, wearing a coffee shop uniform. Mr. Caldwell, Patricia said, this is Marcus. He works at the coffee shop near your office. He's the one who filmed that video. Marcus stood awkwardly, not meeting my eyes. Why? I asked him. Why did you help me? He took a deep breath. Because the same thing happened to my grandmother. Her nephew, my cousin, stole her identity, ruined her credit, took everything. By the time we found out, it was too late. She died broke and broken-hearted. I was working that day, and I heard your nephew bragging about doing the exact same thing. I couldn't let it happen again. I couldn't just walk away. My throat tightened. You risked your job filming that. I don't care, Marcus said, finally looking at me. Some things are more important than a job. Your nephew is a predator. He's good at it. He'll do this to someone else if he's not stopped. He won't be, I promised. I'm going to stop him. How? Marcus asked. Patricia answered for me. The same way we handle any criminal. With evidence, with law enforcement, and with justice. I spent the next week working with my attorney and a detective who specialized in financial fraud. The evidence was overwhelming. The forged signatures, the intercepted mail, the fraudulent accounts, the attempted wire transfers. Every email, every document, every transaction painted a picture of systematic, intentional fraud. But I needed one more thing. I needed Kyle to admit it, on record. My attorney set up a meeting at my house, with hidden cameras in my home office. It was legal in my state as long as one party consented, and I consented. The detective would be listening from the next room. I called Kyle and asked him to come over. Said I wanted to discuss his offer to help manage my finances. Said I was ready to start transitioning into retirement. He arrived right on time, carrying a briefcase, looking professional and eager. Uncle Richard, he hugged me. The embrace felt like a lie. I'm so glad you're taking this step. You deserve to relax. Let me handle the complicated stuff. We sat in my office. I poured us both whiskey. He drank his. I barely touched mine. I needed to be sharp. I've been thinking about what you said, I began. About managing my accounts. About making things easier. And I realized you're right. I'm getting older. Things are complicated. I could use help. Kyle leaned forward, his eyes bright with what I now recognized as greed. I can absolutely help. I've actually already drawn up some paperwork. Power of attorney documents. Just simple stuff so I can handle day-to-day transactions for you. Nothing major. He opened his briefcase and pulled out documents. I looked at them. Power of attorney. Access to all my accounts. Essentially, complete financial control. This seems like a lot, I said carefully. It's standard, Kyle assured me. Look, Uncle Richard, I know you're old school. You don't trust digital stuff, banks, all that. But I work in this world. I can protect you. Make sure no one takes advantage of you. The irony was suffocating. Kyle, I said slowly, have you ever worried that someone might take advantage of me? Of course, he said without hesitation. That's why I want to help. There are a lot of scammers out there targeting elderly people. Identity theft, fraud, it's terrible. Identity theft, I repeated. Like opening credit cards in someone's name? Something flickered in his expression. Just for a second. Exactly like that. Has anyone tried to do that to me? Not that I know of, he said, his voice smooth. But that's why we need to be proactive. Set up alerts. Monitor your credit. I can do all that for you. That's very thoughtful, I said. But here's the thing, Kyle. Someone has already stolen my identity. Someone has opened credit cards in my name, taken out loans, attempted wire transfers. And do you know what the strangest part is? His face had gone very still. What? The person who did it knew everything about me. My social security number, my mother's maiden name, my account numbers, information that only someone very close to me would have. Uncle Richard. The signatures on the fraudulent documents are very good copies of mine. Almost perfect. The kind of copies that would take months of practice. The kind someone might make if they had access to my home office. If they'd been in my house hundreds of times. If they'd been raised here. Kyle stood up abruptly. I don't know what you're implying. Sit down, Kyle. Something in my voice, the steel I used in boardrooms, in negotiations, in moments when I needed someone to understand I was not to be trifled with, made him sit. I know everything, I said quietly. I have the video of you bragging about it at the coffee shop. I have the forensic analysis of the forged signatures. I have the records of the P.O. box you opened to intercept my mail. I have the trail of attempted wire transfers. I have all of it, Kyle. Every single piece of evidence. His face went white, then red, then white again. You're lying. I pulled out my phone and played the video. His own voice, his own words, his own contempt. When it ended, he looked like he might be sick. Kyle, I said, and my voice broke despite my best efforts. I loved you like a son. I gave you everything. Why? For a moment, just a brief moment, something human flickered across his face. Shame, maybe. Regret. But it vanished quickly, replaced by anger. You want to know why? He said bitterly. Because you held it over me. Every birthday card, every tuition check, every generous gift, it all came with strings. With expectations. With this constant reminder that I owed you. That I should be grateful. That I was charity. You never said it, he interrupted, but I felt it. Every time you introduced me to your business friends as my nephew I'm putting through college. Every time you told me how lucky I was. Every time you made a decision about my life without asking me. I was your project. Your good deed. Well, I'm done being your charity case. So you decided to rob me, I said flatly. I decided to take what I deserved. He shot back. You have millions, Uncle Richard. Millions. And you live like a miser. You could have just given me the money. You could have set me up properly. But no, you wanted me to earn it. To prove myself. To beg for every scrap. Well, I'm not begging anymore. You're right, I said, and he looked startled. You're not begging anymore. You're going to prison. The detective entered the room then, showing his badge. Kyle Morrison, he said formally. You're under arrest for identity theft, wire fraud, forgery, and financial elder abuse. Kyle's face went from defiant to terrified in seconds. Wait, Uncle Richard, please. We can work this out. I'll pay it all back. I'll make it right. Please, don't do this. You mocked me, I said quietly, standing up. You called me sentimental, too trusting, too stupid to see what you were doing. You were right about one thing I was trusting. But I'm not stupid, Kyle. And I'm not too sentimental to seek justice. As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked back at me one last time. I'm your brother's son, he said desperately. He would have wanted you to forgive me. My brother, I said, my voice steady now, would have wanted me to teach you that actions have consequences. I'm sorry I failed him by not teaching you that sooner. The trial took 6 months. Kyle's attorney tried every angle, argued that I'd given him permission, that there was a misunderstanding, that he had mental health issues that required treatment rather than punishment. But the evidence was overwhelming. The video testimony alone was damning, but combined with the forensic analysis, the paper trail, and the testimony from the credit card companies, there was no defense. Marcus testified. His grandmother's story brought several jurors to tears. He explained why he'd felt compelled to help, why he couldn't stand by and watch it happen again. The judge was a woman in her 60s, with steel-gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Mr. Morrison, she said at sentencing, you betrayed not just your uncle's trust, but the trust of family itself. You took advantage of his love, his generosity, and his grief over losing his brother, your father. You turned his home into your hunting ground. For that reason, I'm sentencing you to 7 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised probation. You will also pay full restitution of all fraudulent charges, plus damages. And Mr. Morrison, if I ever see you in my courtroom again, I will not be lenient. Kyle was led away. He didn't look at me. After the trial, I met with Marcus and Patricia at the restaurant. I'd asked them both to come. I owe you both everything, I said simply. Marcus, you saved me from financial ruin. Patricia, you gave me the strength and clarity to act. I don't know how to repay that. You don't need to, Marcus began, but I held up my hand. I'm setting up a foundation, I said, to help elderly victims of financial fraud, to provide legal assistance, credit repair, and support. I'm funding it with $1 million initially, and I want you, Marcus, to help run it. If you're interested. His eyes widened. Mr. Caldwell, I'm just a barista. You're someone who saw evil and chose to act, I corrected. That takes courage and character. The rest we can train. What do you say? He nodded, unable to speak. I turned to Patricia. And I'm making a significant donation to the Restaurant Workers Education Fund you've been trying to establish for years, $250,000. Because you teach your staff to care, to notice, to help. That culture saved me. Patricia wiped her eyes. That's too generous. It's not nearly enough, I said. 6 months later, the foundation had helped 12 people recover from similar fraud. Marcus had become passionate about the work, speaking at community centers about warning signs and prevention. I was healing. Slowly. The betrayal still hurt, probably always would. But I'd learned something important. Not all family is blood, and not all blood is family. Marcus had acted like family when my own nephew hadn't. Patricia had shown more loyalty than the boy I'd raised. I sold my large house, Too Many Memories, and moved into a smaller condo downtown. I started attending a support group for victims of family financial abuse. I wasn't alone. There were dozens of us, all struggling with the same pain. How do you trust again after being betrayed by someone you loved? I didn't have all the answers, but I was learning. One evening, a year after the trial, I was having dinner at Romano's. Patricia came over to my table. "Someone wants to say hello," she said, smiling mysteriously. A man in his 70s approached, leaning on a cane. "Mr. Caldwell? I'm Robert Chen. My daughter tried to steal my identity last year. Your foundation helped me. I just wanted to thank you personally." We shook hands and he sat down. We talked for an hour about our experiences, our pain, our slow journey toward healing. When he left, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. I called Marcus the next day. "I met one of our clients," I said. "Robert Chen." "Oh, Mr. Chen. He's doing well. We helped him set up fraud alerts, clean up his credit, and press charges. His daughter is in prison now." He seemed peaceful, I said, like he'd found a way through it. "He goes to the support group," Marcus said. "He says it helps. You should try it again, Mr. Caldwell. You only went once." "Maybe I will," I said. And I did. Every Tuesday evening I sat in a circle with people who understood. We shared our stories, our setbacks, our small victories. We learned that trust could be rebuilt, not naively, but carefully, wisely, with boundaries and awareness. I learned to read credit reports monthly, to set up fraud alerts, to use two-factor authentication, to keep important documents locked. These weren't signs of paranoia, they were signs of wisdom earned through pain. I also learned to let new people in. I started dating again, something I hadn't done in 15 years. Her name was Margaret, a retired teacher with kind eyes and a sharp wit. She'd never been married, had no children, and was beautifully independent. "I like that you're careful," she told me on our third date. "Not closed off, just careful. It means you've learned from life." "I've learned the hard way," I admitted. "Is there any other way?" she smiled. 2 years after the trial, I received a letter from Kyle. He was in prison, working in the library, taking correspondence courses. "Dear Uncle Richard," it began, "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to respond. But I needed to tell you that I understand now what I did. Not just the fraud, the betrayal. I destroyed something precious because I was angry and entitled and foolish. The therapist here says I need to take responsibility without expecting anything in return. So I am. I was wrong. Completely, totally wrong. I hurt you in ways I'm only beginning to understand. I'm sorry. Not because I want something from you, I know that ship has sailed, but because you deserve to hear it. You were good to me, and I repaid you with cruelty. That's on me. I hope you're doing well. I hope you've found peace. You deserve it. Kyle." I read the letter 3 times. I showed it to my therapist, to Margaret, to the support group. "What do you want to do?" my therapist asked. "I want to believe he means it," I said. "But I also want to protect myself. Those two things feel contradictory." "They're not," she said gently. "You can acknowledge his apology without reconnecting. You can hope he's genuinely changed without making yourself vulnerable to him again. Forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation." I wrote back once, a brief letter. "Kyle, I received your letter. I appreciate your apology. I hope you're using this time to truly change, to understand why you made the choices you made, and to build a different future. I won't be visiting or corresponding further, but I don't wish you ill. I hope you find peace and purpose. Richard." That was enough. I didn't need more. I'd learned that closure doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it means simply accepting what happened and choosing to move forward. 3 years after the trial, Marcus called me, excited. "Mr. Caldwell, remember that legislation we've been pushing for? Stronger penalties for financial elder abuse? It just passed. It's a law now." I felt tears spring to my eyes. "Really?" "Really. It's called the Financial Protection for Seniors Act. We did it. We'd spent 2 years lobbying, testifying, sharing our stories with lawmakers. And now, future victims would have stronger protections. Future criminals would face harsher consequences." That night, I took Margaret to Romano's to celebrate. Patricia brought out champagne. "To justice," Patricia toasted. "To second chances," Margaret added. "To family," I said. looking at Patricia and thinking of Marcus and all the people in my support group and everyone who'd helped me rebuild, the family we choose. We clinked glasses, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years, complete. Not because I'd forgotten what happened, not because the pain had vanished, but because I'd transformed it into something meaningful. I'd taken my worst experience and used it to help others. I'd learned to trust again carefully, but genuinely. I'd built a new life on the foundation of hard-won wisdom. Sometimes, late at night, I still thought about Kyle as a boy. The way he'd looked at 14, lost and grieving after his father died. The way he'd hugged me after his high school graduation. Those memories hurt. They probably always would. But I also thought about Robert Chen and the 11 other people we'd helped. I thought about the legislation that would protect countless future victims. I thought about Marcus, who'd found his calling in helping others. I thought about Margaret's hand in mine, and Patricia's friendship, and the community I'd found in my support group. I'd been betrayed by blood, but I'd been saved by strangers who chose to care. And in the end, that's what I chose to remember. Not the betrayal itself, but everything that came after. The people who helped, the strength I didn't know I had, the meaning I'd made from the pain. My 60th birthday had started with a celebration and ended with devastating truth. My 63rd birthday, the one I celebrated this year, was quieter. Just Margaret, Patricia, Marcus, and a few close friends. No grand restaurant, no speeches, just people who genuinely cared. Marcus gave me a framed photo, our foundation's first annual report showing the 23 families we'd helped that year. "We're making a difference," he said simply. "We are," I agreed. And as I looked around the table at these people, my chosen family, I realized something profound. Kyle had tried to steal my money, my credit, my security. But the things that truly mattered, my integrity, my capacity to love, my ability to help others, those he could never touch. I'd lost a nephew but gained a purpose. I'd lost my naivety but gained wisdom. I'd lost the family I thought I had but found the family I needed. That was the real story. Not just of betrayal, but of everything that came after. Of choosing, despite the pain, to remain open to goodness. Of learning that the opposite of betrayal isn't suspicion, it's discernment. Of understanding that protecting yourself doesn't mean closing yourself off from everyone. I thought about that mysterious USB drive, delivered to me at just the right moment. About Marcus, risking his job to help a stranger. About Patricia, offering her wisdom and her office. About the detective who'd taken my case seriously. About the judge who'd understood. About every person who'd helped me rebuild. They were proof that for every person who betrays trust, there are dozens who honor it. That goodness still exists. That hope is reasonable. As I blew out the candles on my cake, just 3 of them this time, no grand display, I made a wish. Not for the past to change, not for Kyle to be someone he wasn't, but for the strength to keep doing this work, to keep helping people, to keep building this second chapter of my life with intention and purpose. "What did you wish for?" Margaret asked, squeezing my hand. "Already came true," I said, looking around the table. And it had. Not the life I'd planned, not the family I'd expected, but a life with meaning, with purpose, with people who'd proven their loyalty not through blood or obligation, but through choice. That was worth more than anything Kyle could have stolen. That was everything.